This morning we pause long enough to remember a truth that can change the direction of an entire day, and if we let it, the direction of an entire life. God is here, not distant, not distracted, not delayed. He is present with us in this very moment. Before the sun climbed into the sky, before the noise of the world found its way into our ears, before the weight of yesterday tried to sit again on our shoulders, God was already here. We did not wake him up. He woke us up. We did not invite him into the morning. He invited us into it. The first breath you took today was not an accident, and the first thought that crossed your mind was not unnoticed by heaven. Thank God for his presence this morning, because without it we would be awake but not alive, moving but not directed, breathing but not at peace. So many people begin their day running, chasing, worrying, planning, scrolling, reacting. They give the first moments of the morning to fear, to pressure, to headlines, to memories of failure, to uncertainty about the future. But there is something powerful about stopping right at the start and saying, Lord, before I face anything else, I want to face you. When we put God first, we are not pushing everything else aside forever. We are simply putting everything else in its proper place. The heart that bows first thing in the morning stands stronger throughout the day. The soul that listens to God before it listens to the world walks with clarity instead of confusion. Some of us came into this morning tired, not just in the body, but in the spirit. You smiled on the outside, but inside you carried questions. You showed up, but part of you wondered if you had enough strength to keep going. You may have whispered prayers in the dark last night that sounded more like sighs than sentences. Hear this clearly. God's presence is not reserved for the strong. It is promised to the humble. He does not wait for you to have it all together before he draws near. He comes close when you admit you don't. That is why this morning matters, not because we are impressive, but because he is faithful. When we thank God for his presence, we are acknowledging that life makes sense only when he is at the center. Without him, success feels empty, pleasure feels temporary, and achievements feel fragile. With him, even ordinary moments become holy. A quiet room becomes a sanctuary. A simple prayer becomes a lifeline. A new day becomes a gift instead of a burden. God does not just meet us in churches or special gatherings. He meets us in kitchens, in bedrooms, on roads, in hospitals, in offices, in classrooms, and in the silent places of the heart where no one else can see. Putting God first today is not about a long list of religious tasks. It begins with surrender. It begins by saying, Lord, this day belongs to you before it belongs to me. Surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. When we surrender our plans, God directs them. When we surrender our worries, God carries them. When we surrender our sins, God forgives them. When we surrender our future, God secures it. The world tells us to take control, to depend on ourselves, to trust our own strength. God invites us to trust him, to lean not on our own understanding, but to acknowledge him, and he promises to make our paths straight. Some of you woke up with regret pressing hard against your heart. The enemy loves mornings because he knows how easily yesterday can invade today. He whispers, remember what you did, remember what you failed to do, remember who you disappointed. But when God is present, mercy is present, grace does not run out overnight. Forgiveness does not expire at dawn. God's mercy is new every morning, not recycled, not secondhand, not worn thin. New, fresh, enough for whatever you are facing today. You may not be able to change yesterday, but God can redeem it, and he can give you a new beginning right now. Thank God for his presence this morning because it means we are not facing life alone. Loneliness is one of the deepest pains of the human heart. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. You can be successful and still feel empty. You can be busy and still feel abandoned. But when God is present, you are never truly alone. He sees what others overlook. He understands what you cannot explain. He stays when others leave. Even when you feel nothing, even when prayers feel dry and distant, his presence remains. Faith is not always a feeling. It is a trust anchored in who God is, not in how we feel at the moment. Putting God first today also means trusting him with our fears. Fear loves the early hours of the day. It asks questions before faith has a chance to answer. What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I get bad news? What if I'm not enough? But when God goes before us, fear loses its authority. The same God who carried you through yesterday is already waiting in tomorrow. He is not surprised by what you will face today. He is not scrambling for solutions. He is sovereign, steady, and sure. When you place the day in his hands, you are placing it in the safest place it can be. Some of you are standing at a crossroads this morning. Decisions weigh on you. Choices feel heavy. You are asking God for direction, for clarity, for wisdom. Putting him first means listening before deciding, praying before acting, waiting before rushing. God's presence brings peace not always by changing our circumstances, but by steadying our hearts. He may not reveal the entire path at once, but he will give enough light for the next step. Faith does not demand to see the whole staircase. It simply takes the next step in obedience. There are those listening who have been carrying guilt for a long time. You believe in God, but you are not sure he wants to be close to you. You feel unworthy of his presence. Let me tell you something that can set your heart free this morning. God's presence is not earned, it is given. We come to him not because we are good, but because he is gracious. The door to his presence is open, not by our perfection, but by his love. When we come honestly, when we come humbly, when we come repentant, he does not push us away. He welcomes us, he restores us, he renews us. Thank God for his presence this morning because it reminds us of what truly matters. Careers will change, money will come and go, health can be uncertain, opinions will shift, but God remains the same. He is our anchor when everything else feels unstable. He is our refuge when the storms of life rise. He is our strength when our own strength fails. When we put him first, we are building our lives on a foundation that cannot be shaken. This morning prayer is not about fancy words. It is about a surrendered heart. It is about saying, Lord, lead my thoughts today. Guard my words today. Direct my steps today. Use my life today. When God is first, our priorities change. We become slower to anger and quicker to forgive. We become less driven by pride and more guided by love. We begin to see people not as interruptions, but as opportunities for grace. We begin to measure success not just by what we achieve, but by who we become. Some of you are praying for strength because the road has been long. You have been faithful, but you are weary. You have trusted, but you are tired. God's presence does not shame your weariness, it meets it. He invites you to rest in him. Rest is not quitting, it is trusting. When you put God first, you are not saying you will never struggle. You are saying you will not struggle alone. Thank God for his presence this morning because it means hope is still alive. No matter how dark the night was, morning has come. No matter how heavy the burden feels, God is able to carry it. No matter how broken the situation seems, God specializes in restoration. He is the God who brings beauty out of ashes, joy out of sorrow, purpose out of pain. When we put him first, we open our hearts to the possibility that today can be different, not because circumstances change instantly, but because God is with us in them. As this day unfolds, there will be conversations you did not plan, challenges you did not expect, moments that test your patience and your faith. But remember this, the same God who is present in this quiet moment will be present in every loud one. He will be with you in the meeting, in the traffic, in the difficult conversation, in the waiting, in the uncertainty. Putting God first this morning sets the tone for trusting him all day long. Let your first thought be gratitude. Let your first words be praise. Let your first decision be surrender. Thank God for his presence this morning, not as a habit, but as a heartfelt response to his faithfulness. When you put God first today, you are not just starting the day right. You are aligning your life with the one who gives it meaning, direction, and hope. When we acknowledge God's presence early in the morning, something begins to shift deep within us. The heart becomes quieter, not because problems disappear, but because we remember who is greater than every problem. The mind becomes steadier, not because questions vanish, but because we trust the one who holds the answers. God's presence does not remove responsibility. It gives us the courage to face it. It does not promise an easy road. It promises faithful companionship on every road we walk. Many people misunderstand prayer and think it is mainly about asking God to do things for us. But prayer, especially in the morning, is first about relationship. It is about aligning our hearts with his heart. Before we ask him to bless our plans, we pause long enough to ask him to shape them. Before we ask him to change our circumstances, we allow him to change us. When God is first, prayer becomes less about panic and more about trust, less about desperation and more about dependence. There is a quiet power in starting the day with God because it reminds us that our identity does not come from what we do, but from whose we are. The world will try to label you today. It will measure you by productivity, by performance, by success or failure. But God's presence speaks a deeper truth. You are known, you are loved, and you are valued beyond measure. When that truth settles into your heart in the morning, it changes how you walk into every room and how you face every challenge. Some of you are carrying responsibilities that feel overwhelming. You are responsible for families, for work, for decisions that affect others. The weight feels heavy, and you wonder if you are strong enough. Putting God first today means admitting that you are not meant to carry everything alone. God never intended you to shoulder burdens that only He can carry. His presence invites you to hand over what is too heavy and to trust Him with outcomes you cannot control. This morning is also an invitation to listen. God still speaks, often not in loud displays, but in gentle whispers to the attentive heart. When we rush past Him, we miss His guidance. When we quiet ourselves before Him, we begin to recognize His voice. Sometimes He reassures us. Sometimes He corrects us. Sometimes He simply reminds us that He is near. All of it flows from relationship, and all of it begins when we choose to put Him first. There are moments today when temptation will appear, subtle and persuasive. Old habits may try to reclaim ground you thought was lost. Old attitudes may try to resurface. God's presence gives strength to resist what once controlled us. When He is first, we are no longer fighting alone. His Spirit gives discernment to recognize what pulls us away from Him and power to choose what draws us closer. Thank God for His presence this morning because it also brings purpose to ordinary moments. Not every day will feel dramatic or significant, but no day is wasted when it is surrendered to God. A simple act of kindness, a word of encouragement, a moment of patience, these become acts of worship when done with a heart that puts God first. He uses small obediences to accomplish eternal work. Some of you are praying for loved ones who are far from God. Their names rise in your heart this morning, and concern weighs on you. God's presence brings comfort even here. He loves them more than you do. He is working in ways you cannot see. When you put God first, you learn to trust Him not only with your own life, but with the lives of those you love. As the hours pass, there may be moments of frustration. Plans may change. Delays may test your patience. But a morning that begins with God creates a reservoir of grace to draw from later. Instead of reacting in anger, you can respond with wisdom. Instead of giving in to despair, you can hold on to hope. God's presence does not remove the pressures of life, but it reshapes how we carry them. There are those who feel spiritually dry this morning. You believe, but you feel distant. Your prayers feel routine. Your heart feels heavy. God's presence is not dependent on your emotional state. Even when you feel empty, He is near. Sometimes faith is simply showing up and saying, Lord, I'm here, even if I feel nothing. God honors that honesty. Over time, dryness gives way to renewal, not because we forced it, but because we remained faithful. Putting God first today also means trusting Him with your words. What you say today has power. Words can heal or wound, encourage or discourage, build or destroy. When God is first, we ask Him to guard our mouths and guide our speech. We become more aware of the impact our words have on others. We speak truth with love. We choose grace over gossip, patience over harshness, humility over pride. Thank God for His presence this morning because it reminds us that we are part of something greater than ourselves. Life is not just about surviving another day. It is about living with eternal perspective. When God is first, we remember that our choices matter, our faith matters, and our obedience matters. Even when no one else notices, God does. As you move forward into this day, carry this awareness with you. God is not behind you, disappointed. He is not far ahead of you, unreachable. He is with you, guiding, strengthening, sustaining. When you stumble, He is there to lift you. When you succeed, He is there to keep you humble. When you are confused, He is there to lead you gently. This morning prayer is not confined to this moment. It continues in the way you live, the way you love, the way you trust. Every step taken in dependence on God becomes an extension of this prayer. Every decision made with Him in mind becomes an act of worship. Putting God first today is not a single choice. It is a daily posture of the heart, renewed again and again as we walk forward in faith. As this day unfolds, there will be conversations you did not plan, challenges you did not expect, moments that test your patience and your faith. But remember this, the same God who is present in this quiet moment will be present in every loud one. He will be with you in the meeting, in the traffic, in the difficult conversation, in the waiting, in the uncertainty. Putting God first this morning sets the tone for trusting Him all day long. Let your first thought be gratitude. Let your first words be praise. Let your first decision be surrender. Thank God for His presence this morning, not as a habit, but as a heartfelt response to His faithfulness. When you put God first today, you are not just starting the day right. You are aligning your life with the one who gives it meaning, direction, and hope. So let this moment mark a decision, not just a feeling. A decision that no matter what waits for you outside this quiet space, God will not be an afterthought today. He will be first. First in your trust, first in your choices, first in your responses, first in your hope. When the pressure rises, you will remember His presence. When fear knocks, you will answer with faith. When the world pulls at your heart, you will anchor it again in Him. This morning is more than the start of another day. It is a reminder that the living God walks with you into every hour that follows. Go forward knowing this: a life that begins the day with God is never empty, never pointless, and never alone. Put Him first today and watch how His presence reshapes not only this day, but the direction of your life.